Unbeknownst to a lot of people, there was actually a time before Rare developed Donkey Kong Country and were cemented into the history books. Rare was responsible for creating a few games on the Nintendo Entertainment System back in the 80s and early 90s. Games like Cobra Triangle. Remember that one? Hell yeah, it's an NES classic. Kinda like Zaxxon on Water. Remember that one? Anyways, back in the late 80s, a small developer called Zippo Games created a game called Wizards and Warriors. Zippo Games was a subsidiary of Rare. For simplicity's sake, during the rest of the review, we'll just refer to Zippo as Rare, since Zippo doesn't exist anymore. Got me? Cool. The original game was released in 1987 on the NES, but I'm not here to talk about that. Hell, I've never even played the original game. What I am here to talk about and review, and share my silly thoughts on, is the sequel, Wizards and Warriors 2 Ironsword, hereafter just referred to as Ironsword. Released by Acclaim in 1989, let's be honest, who doesn't remember this box cover? What else says total cheesy 80s fantasy than Fabio dressed as a warrior with a sword? The game was developed by a relatively new British game company called Rare. Ever heard of them? Sound familiar? Let's dig in! The storyline is as follows. You take the role of Kuros, supreme warrior of the time. The story takes place in a land called Sindarin, which, as far as I know, is a nod to the Lord of the Rings. An evil wizard called Malkill has taken over the land using the four elements: fire, water, wind, and earth. I guess Ma T got shafted this time. So it's up to you to set off across the land and restore balance to the world. Seems simple enough, doesn't it? I think so. Back in the NES days, you really didn't need a whole terrible lot in terms of storyline to get you interested or to keep you entertained. This was back when we used our imagination. You have the main title, and you know you remember that music. More on that later. So you start off and you're shown a large overworld map of the world. This shows the layout of where each elemental boss lives and the areas of the game you'll be passing through on your way to Icefire Mountain. How 80s is that? You run around collecting treasure for points, jumping and attacking the various enemies that inhabit each area. I can't overemphasize jumping in this game. It is paramount to progressing and even critical almost. Not only using momentum, but timing your jumps in this game is crucial. Well, that and correctly using sliding too. If you can't grasp those two things, you'll never see the end of this game. Period. Kuros is your normal medieval warrior type, brandishing a small sword to start, but you'll get upgrades later on. Speaking of your character, look at him. What the hell is going on there? I think it's supposed to be he has a helmet on, but what the fuck? Even when we were kids, we couldn't figure out why the hell he looks like he has a metal head. It's hilariously lame. When you attack, you just sort of fidget around with your sword. Or a pig sticker is what you basically start the game with. Oh, and you also collect beers from killed enemies too! This first area also features a small inn where you can purchase a few items, usually needed for progression. Oh shit, we all remember the inn music, don't we? More on that later. In each zone, you'll also find treasure chests which normally include spells or bonuses. Along the way, you collect these little oval pellet things, which build up your magic meter. Unfortunately, you can only mainly use your magical attacks on each area boss, not just for general ass kicking. In each area of the game, you have one objective in order to reach the boss. This usually requires you to find a certain chest containing a spell or item, which is then used to access the boss. In the first area, you'll meet a large eagle, which won't advance the game until you bring him a large golden egg. Pretty original, yes? So this is where the first caveat of the game comes into play. The main way to advance in this game is to find the large animal that will advance you, find the item you need to give them, then find the spell in order to access the item wherever it is. How you get those things done, that's a different story altogether. Let's cut the shit and be real. This game isn't long. Almost every stage can be completed in less than 5 minutes or so. But that's the point. The game wasn't designed around gameplay difficulty. It was designed around a total fucking stupid hide-and-seek gameplay mechanic. What's that? Where's the golden fly in the forest? Oh, here it is. Way over here in BFE. What's that? You're going to spend the next 20 minutes jumping and falling and trying every which way to try and get the fucking thing? Yep. What's that? You actually need a water spout spell that shoots you up there from a specific spot on this fucking tree? Yep. Does the game tell you anything about how to get the fucking gold item in each level? Fuck no. Let's never fucking mind that the spell is inside a locked treasure chest. The fucking catch? The keys are hidden in fucking rooms. Yeah. So let's give a general overview. We, as gamers, were roughly 6 years old playing this. Much like Legend of Zelda, there is nothing to tell you that A, that there are secret rooms in the stage, or B, nothing to indicate where there might be a hidden room. I mean, absolutely nothing. Just fucking nothing. So, unless you literally cover every square inch of every level, jumping around like a fucking idiot, because, you know, some doors can only be entered via jumping, you'd never know the entrances to these rooms are even there in the first place. So we'd just get frustrated and give up. Because we couldn't fucking advance the fucking game. I mean, we eventually did through pure luck, but it's like that in every level in the game. The game only has 5 stages, and it would literally take us an entire weekend just to get to the final boss. Speaking of which, you go through, destroying each of the elemental bosses, and reach the finale. After each boss, you gain a piece of the legendary weapon Ironsword. You'll need this thing to finish the game. Kick Malkill's ass into history, and the game is over. Which, more or less, sums up the majority of NES games back then. It was all about kicking ass. That's all you did. You just kicked ass and kicked more ass. Kicked the enemy's ass, the boss's ass, kicked the second player's ass. You name it, that was the general idea. Graphics side, the designs are pretty simple, and there isn't much in the way of standout visuals or animations. The bosses are very simple, blob shapes with a funny little face on them. I think the majority of the animation in the game was put towards the main character, as his running animation is actually quite fluid for being an NES game. Speaking of which, anybody else ever notice how the main character has a fucking seizure whenever you die? What the hell is going on here? Backgrounds are very simple, with repeating designs and terrains. The simple group of enemies are also very simple in design, even the fucking tornadoes! The smaller eagle enemies are also nicely animated. The sound effects are simple beeps and boops, usually found in many traditional NES games. The soundtrack is much more memorable. From the title screen, to each level's music, to the greatest snippet of music in the game. The fucking shopkeeper! Don't tell me you didn't hear it 1,000 times growing up. because while it's totally cheesy, it's still memorable. Ironsword is one of my most memorable games growing up. And it's strange to think about the fact that had our local video store not had the game, or had we not rented it, I probably never would have played it, as is the case with many NES games to this day. While simple in its presentation and storyline, it's the fun factor that keeps me coming back. Sometimes I play it nowadays just to hear the fun music, and to see how fast I can get through the game. Back when it used to take us all weekend just to get to the final boss. While the Wizards and Warriors series comprises 3 games in total, to be honest, I've never played the first game, nor have I played the third game. Only the second one for some reason. Unfortunately, the game remains solely on the original Nintendo Entertainment System. It's never been ported or brought to newer consoles, and it's not even available on the Virtual Console. Because while it might not be nearly as popular as other NES titles, I've always felt it was a decent enough game among the multitude of garbage that came out on the NES. Guess only time will tell. Thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, grab a golden egg and go check it out.